We are 2 News, and we are on your side.
In this high-tech world, a primitive way to communicate to the world. The real-life drama as the world's Catholics learned the identity of their new leader. The only Buffalo reporter who made the trip in the middle of it all.
The new Pope, Francesco, the crowd in St. Peter's Square went from a hush to extreme excitement.
It's very exciting. This crowd is electric.
I can't believe I made it.
Reaction from the Vatican and throughout Western New York as Francis I becomes the new Pope on Channel 2 News at 6. An incredible day. Tonight, the world continues to welcome a new leader of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis I. Bells rang throughout St. Peter's Square as thousands cheered this afternoon for the first non-European Pope in more than a millennium. Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio of Argentina will now be known as Pope Francis I. The new leader was elected on the 5th ballot, chosen in one of the fastest conclaves in years. Pope Francis stepped out to greet the world just after 3 o'clock this afternoon, about an hour after the white smoke first appeared from the Sistine Chapel. And our Mary Alice Demler was there to see it all live in person. We'll check in with her in just a few moments. But first, tonight, we begin our team coverage with Tori Dunnan and the story of a day that Catholics around the world will never forget.
It is an exciting day around the world. We have a new pope, this man, Pope Francis. Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio walked out onto the Vatican balcony and addressed this massive chanting crowd that was all gathered right there in St. Peter's Square. Here's some background information about the new pope. The pope is 76 years old and from Argentina. In fact, he's the first pope from outside Europe in the modern era. He's also the first South American pope, and to add another first, he's the first pope to take the name Francis. Here's how he decided to address the crowd.
Before the bishop blesses you, I ask that you pray to the Lord so that he blesses me, so that the prayer of the people will bring down the blessing of God.
And of course, you can imagine a lot of excitement leading up to this big moment. For days, all eyes have been on the chimney at the Sistine Chapel, and once that white smoke appeared, it meant that a new pope had been chosen. So, of course, a surge of people ran down the streets in Rome, all trying to catch a glimpse of the Pope's debut. Remember, 115 Catholic cardinals from around the world had gathered at a secret conclave that began on Monday, and now this new Pope will lead 1.2 billion Catholics around the world. We're live in Washington. I'm Tori Dunnan reporting. Now back to you.
Thank you. And my colleague Mary Alice Demler is the only Buffalo reporter in the Vatican, and she was there to witness history today. Tonight, she tells us what the world didn't see between the white smoke and Pope Francis's first appearance.
Hi there, Scott. We do have a new Holy Father. Pope Francis I announced just a short time ago. Joining me right now is Father Mark Haydu from the Vatican Museums. Father, first, what was your reaction when Pope Francis was announced?
I was totally stunned. None of us were expecting the election to go so quickly. And then I was thinking in Italian if they were to agree so quickly, so we were all amazed.
The crowd seems to love the fact that he spoke so much about his really desire to pull the world together. He's mentioned being from a corner of the earth.
Yeah, from way down south, and a beautiful gesture where he first said, before I give you my traditional blessing, I'm going to bow and I want you to bless me. Very humble, very simple man, and I think that really captured the crowd immediately.
We want you to help walk us through what happened before we saw him walk out onto the balcony. After his name is announced in the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican Museum where you work, what actually happened next?
Well, all eyes turn to him in the Sistine Chapel, and they say, do you accept? He'll stand up and say, I accept. Then he'll immediately go change into his white robes, come out, receive an oath of fidelity from the cardinals, and then process to the facade that we saw him. Obviously, that took about 40 minutes, so he did some praying in there, I'm sure, gathered himself, thought about what he would say, and then went to greet the world.
Talk about that room of tears as soon as he accepts, the room that he walks back into that you brought me through just 2 months ago. What is in that room? What does he see? And what specifically does he do there?
It's a very simple room, actually. It's almost a passageway between the sacristy and the Sistine Chapel, small room. He'll go in, get changed, he'll sit down at a desk, he'll sign his name for the first time. I will be called Francis I. then everyone will leave and leave him some time to himself. And that's why they call it the Room of Tears, because it's in that moment, the first time he has a chance even to begin to soak in the immense reality that's just fallen upon him.
Well, he now has a worldly flock to shepherd, and we thank you, Father, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, Scott, it has been an exciting day here in Vatican City, an historic one, and we're all anxious to hear more about Pope Francis I, and we will in the coming days. For now, reporting live from Vatican City, Mary Alice Demler, Channel 2 News.
Mary Alice, thank you. And Catholics at Our Lady of Victory Basilica here in Lackawanna were also surprised about the decision today. Our Kelly Dudzik is live at the Basilica tonight with more reaction. Hello, Kelly.
Hi, Scott. Parishioners have started arriving to pray and talk about the new pope. This afternoon, we watched the announcement with Monsignor Paul Burkhardt in the rectory. Talking with him beforehand, he thought the cardinals would most likely choose a cardinal from Rio or Milan. And when the new pope was announced, the Monsignor, he was a little surprised.
Well, it's a real dark horse. I don't think that anybody would have expected him particularly. He was probably in the top 20 names of people who were possible elected, but I don't think anybody would have put him at the top 5.
The Monsignor was also a little surprised that he chose the name Francis, noting that no pope had ever chosen that name before, Scott.
Kelly Dudzik live tonight at the Basilica. Kelly, thank you. Also, Pope Francis is the first Argentinian to be elected as Pope and also the first Jesuit. Teachers and students at Canisius College, they are, of course, excited about that fact. Channel 2's Claudine Ewing is live tonight. She is at the college in Buffalo. Hello, Claudine.
Good evening, Scott. Well, I did ask whether or not this was a glorious day for Jesuits, and especially here at Canisius College, and the response I got was in the form of a big smile. You bet it definitely is. Take a look at the video, because we were here on campus with the students and a religious education professor as they huddled around a television in anticipation of the big announcement today of the new pontiff. And as the name was revealed, the pride became even more evident.
I think the tradition is continually being challenged by having a Jesuit pope for the first time and someone from the Latin American world.
Does it mean something more to you because you are at a Jesuit college?
I think the Jesuit mission is a lot about diversity, humility, spiritual, intellectual growth, and looking at people as individuals. And I think bringing that mission to the papacy will be very interesting to watch.
Well, I think it's definitely a movement in diversity.
Greatly honored that he's the first Jesuit, and I hope he does a good job. It's sort of ironic, you know, the Jesuits take, at least the professed Jesuits take a vow not to seek ecclesiastical offices like bishops, and so obviously he was dispensed from that, but it's somewhat unusual.
And that bears repeating, because he says, once again, for a Jesuit, it's usually unusual for them to take a vow to seek that higher office. However, to be Pope is a big change for them, a first for Jesuits who want to now focus on serving others as they always have. So right now, speaking with the people here on campus, they are awaiting to see what this new Pope will bring. One person told me they expect to see more evangelizing done by the church. Live on the Canisius College campus, Claudine Ewing, Channel 2 News.